Do you want to know how much your case is worth? Let's break it down. What are the factors, the driving factors, the catalysts that determine case value, how much a case is worth? Well, one of the factors is the plaintiff. Some people are likable, they answer questions directly. Other people could be argumentative, maybe not so likable, and also evasive. When they're asked a question, they may refuse to answer it. Some people remember things and can tell you when they fell or when they got into a car crash, the treatment they received from doctors. Other people might forget everything and say, I don't remember when I fell. I don't remember what time it was. I don't remember what day of the week it was. And I don't remember what doctors I went to. Which one do you think is going to have a better shot with a jury at getting $1 million verdict? Probably the one that remembers. And you don't necessarily have to be Einstein, right, and remember everything perfectly. It's really a matter of preparation with your lawyer. So the best cases have the best lawyers who, before a deposition or hearing, meet with their clients 3 or more times and spend the time to prepare. That way, the client is always prepared. And some lawyers even say, if a client's not prepared, that's my fault. That's the lawyer's fault. You can't blame the client. The client doesn't know the process. The client doesn't know the law. It's like stepping into a different world, the legal world, where you have questions and answers, transcripts, stenographers, court, objections, evidence. You can't blame that on the client. Rather, you have to build the right type of case. The second factor I would say that's really critical is the issue of liability and the way you develop that and prove that. You can go to the scene right away, you can take photos, you can interview witnesses, you can hire experts, like in a truck crash or even a trip and fall, and those experts will go to the scene and take measurements of the defect, and then they'll write reports, and they can be based on safety engineering and other concepts. Or some lawyers choose to do nothing, and then memories fade, witnesses move out, there's never any measurement, and then of course, which one do you think is going to be worth more, right? So that's really essential, is working on liability and proving liability. Because remember, if you don't have liability, then the damages don't really matter, because let's say you have a big damages case like a wrongful death or a traumatic brain injury, it could be worth $10 million. But if you don't prove liability, in a lot of jurisdictions, you get 0, and they don't even get to damages. And in some jurisdictions, including New York, for example, in Brooklyn and in other second department venues, what they do is they bifurcate the trial, which means you have a trial on liability to determine who is at fault, and then you have a separate trial on damages, usually with the same jury, sometimes with a different jury, but you have 2 different trials. So it's really essential to focus on liability and make sure you can prove whoever you are suing is at fault. And that goes back to investigations and making sure you're suing the right parties and being very proactive, always thinking ahead, and almost like a chess match, thinking ahead, thinking about the next step that your opponent can make and what I can do to really shore up my case, make it as strong as possible without any leaks, So that's critical. And then the other portion of it is damages. You have to make sure that you have strong damages, and to do that, you get your medical care, you go to the right doctors, you have somebody coordinate and go to like orthopedics, neurologists, all the right doctors to make the case as strong as possible. You try to find community witnesses like neighbors, friends, coworkers to talk about how you were before you got hurt and how you are now and what's the difference, and to really show that this is a life-changing forever injury as opposed to just a small little blimp, right? Because if it's just a small little hiccup, well, they're not going to give you a lot of money for that. If you have gaps in treatment, if you're not treating, if you only went to the doctor a handful of times, if the doctor says, you're okay, there's no real diagnosis, those are going to be cases you could possibly, just drop or settle for small amounts, but they aren't going to be big $1 million cases because you just don't have that type of life-changing forever injury. So those are usually the main factors. Now, of course, there are other factors like your venue. Where are you filing a lawsuit? Some venues are known to be conservative, where the jurors allow for small amounts of money. Other venues are more liberal, where the jurors allow for big amounts of money, even like millions of dollars on a relatively soft tissue case. That's happened. And then, of course, that can go up on appeal. But you have things like venue, you have things like judges, right? Different judges. Some judges are more neutral. They play it even-keeled. Other judges may be former prosecutors or former defense attorneys or former insurance company employees who are more conservative and favor the insurance company. And it's sometimes a handful of times, not too often, unfortunately, you get a judge who was a former plaintiff's attorney and might be a little bit leaning toward the injured party. So that can make a difference. And the other big difference, like we already talked about, is the lawyer, because if the lawyer is really preparing the case and has a track record and has won millions of dollars in the past, then they're likely to do it again. If the lawyer is not a trial lawyer, doesn't go to court, and doesn't win millions of dollars, then the chances that they're going to do it, that you're going to be their first time, is almost like winning the lottery, right? It's very, very low, almost non-existent. So it's really important to make sure you hire a trial lawyer and that the trial lawyer then prepares the case. And you can kind of work alongside with them, right? The lawyer's like your guide. They're like guiding you through the deep, dark woods of this legal system, but you can help them. You can give them information. You can tell them, hey, I went to this doctor told me this doctor told me that. Just keep in contact with them, speak with them, text them, email them, set up meetings in person or on Zoom, video calls. It's really important to have that communication so that the lawyer knows what's going on and the lawyer can do their best to help you, the client. And the final point I would say is that I can't stress enough how important it is to hire a trial lawyer, because there are a lot of lawyers that, despite being in practice for 10 or even 20 years, have never tried a case, and they just don't know how to try a case, right? They don't know that they need to hire certain experts. They don't know the rules of evidence. They're just not a trial lawyer, but they still advertise and they'll put up billboards or be online, and they'll take your cases. And then what they'll do is they'll force you to settle the case for a small amount. They'll kind of like strong arm you. They'll say, you got to take $30,000 because if you don't take $30,000, it's going to get dismissed. Well, yeah, it will get dismissed because they're not a trial lawyer. They don't know how to work it up and go to court and get $3 million on it, whereas a trial lawyer could do that. But if you hire that non-trial lawyer and have them do that to you and then strong arm you to take the $30,000, and at that point try to fire them and get a trial lawyer, it may be too late because the case is already done, right? Just like a steak, when it's already cooked well done, you can't make it medium rare again. It's the same thing. It's like they've already done all that. I mean, maybe a trial lawyer could step in and try to fix it. We've done that. We've had a case where we stepped in 3 months before trial and we turned, I think, a $100,000 offer into a $600,000 settlement. We had another one with a $500,000 offer that we turned into a $1.2 million settlement. So it can be done, but a lot of lawyers won't touch it. A lot of lawyers don't want to risk it. And sometimes you're not going to be successful in changing it like that. So the best thing to do is hire that trial lawyer from day one. That's in your best interest. And that's what really you should be doing. Because all these other guys that don't go to trial, that don't have trial lawyers on their team, they're essentially business people. They're not really lawyers, even though they have a degree and they have a license, but they're not really lawyers because they can't do all of the steps that they need to do in order to get you that result, right? So when you say, how much is my case going to be worth? Well, it could be worth $5 million or it could be worth $5,000. It depends on who you hire and how the case is prepared. So always think proactively, always think liability, damages, and get a trial lawyer. So I hope this was helpful. Let us know what questions you have. Please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you have a case or if you are thinking about starting a case and need a consultation, it's free and it's confidential. Just text me 347-566-9595. We're happy to chat and give you some advice and help you. Okay, everyone. Bye-bye and have a great day.